Hi, my name is James Andriella, and you were listening to the Back to Human podcast. On the show with me today, I have Bella, which you may know as Steak and Butter Gal. And I have personally been on a carnivore diet for about the past 2.5 months. I've recently transitioned from more of a ketogenic approach. I've cut out vegetables probably for over a year now, but I still was having a little bit of fruit, and I realized that this was causing some joint issues, specifically in my previously operated on ACL surgical knee. And it wasn't until I removed the blueberries that I was consuming each day that I saw a resolution of this pain. It was like a gout-like pain, which I got into on the episode with Sally Norton that I did previously. And in a typical James-like fashion, how I typically do, I jump into things first and then I do a little bit of research afterwards. So in doing so, I came across Steak and Buttergirl's page on YouTube, and I have recently become a member of her SPG meetup community, which is a fantastic resource if you are looking to get into a carnivore lifestyle. So without further ado, Bella, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, James. I'm so excited.
I see we are joined by, who's that, Aspen?
Yes, it is Aspen. He's right
Aspen?
here. Yes.
How did you get the name Steak and Butter Girl? How did this happen?
Mm. Yeah, so this is wow. So 6 years I've been carnivore, and it was a year into being carnivore, I decided that I wanted to share my journey and document my meals. It really was an online diary for myself to just track my progress in healing, in just trying to feel better with a carnivore lifestyle. And so I started Instagram first as that very first online platform. And I was just thinking, because it prompts you to create a handle on Instagram before you can even create your account. And so I wanted a handle that really resonated with me. And being 1 year into carnivore, I thought about the things that really were so important to me when it comes to carnivore. And hands down, it is going to be steak and butter because I was eating sticks of butter every single day, up to 2 sticks a day my first year of carnivore. And so butter was a huge part of my healing journey. Steak was as well, beef in general, but I did love a good, thick, bloody rare, fatty steak. So steak and butter, gal, because I'm just a girl. And that was my handle. I just whipped it up in that moment.
That's honestly one of my favorite things, steak and butter. I have a video years ago where I'm just sitting in my car with a stick of Kerrygold and I take a huge chunk out of it and I post it up. And there's this misconception that it's unhealthy. You can't eat animal fats. That's what we're told to stay away from, which usually, if you stay away from the mainstream advice, you'll typically be quite healthier. So,
Wait.
one thing, since I've done quite a bit of research, I've done quite a bit of binging, as I was mentioning before. What was your lifestyle like prior to becoming a carnivore?
Yes, so I was vegan before going carnivore, and I was a very, very strict whole foods, plant-based vegan eater. So what that means is I did not eat any of the fake meats. I did not eat any processed junk. I was specifically focusing on the whole foods, one single ingredient types of foods only, vegan diet for 6 years. I was eating that way, and before the 6 years of a vegan diet, I was actually eating like a typical standard American diet mixed with a standard Chinese diet, which is, rice, meat meals, veggie dishes, but everything is cooked in seed oils. So it was a very seed oil heavy diet, just growing up on that up until when I was age 16. Vegan, 6 years, then carnivore, 6 years to this day.
And what health issues were you experiencing at the time? And one of the reasons why I really wanted to have you on here is because I've been a coach for about 14 years now. I've worked mostly with men, but I have worked with females in the past.
Yeah.
And one particular population that is a little difficult for me to work with was teenage girls because
Oh.
you have all these outside influences and stressors. If you're in high school, then you have the boys, you have the girls, you have the celebrity role models that we're supposed to look up to. It looks like there's so much just marketed towards looking a certain way.
Mm,
And people in general, they want quick fixes, right?
right.
Not a lot of people are looking to make a lifestyle change that requires quite a bit of behavioral change.
Mhm.
So, depending on which information that you come across at first, this can steer you down a path that may not really be beneficial for you. And it's something that I've come across with training teenage female girls that it's a difficult conversation to have about
Yeah,
nutrition. So, how did you
absolutely.
navigate this?
Well, I navigated initially by making all of the big mistakes, right? And so I did the calorie counting, I did the portion control, I did the working super hard in the gym to hopefully lose a couple pounds, which never worked. It just is the truth. And unfortunately, so many young women put themselves through that because they can't find any other way. They don't know that there is this whole thing about eating animal foods for literally permanent weight loss and happy hormones. And so if you want to lose weight or have some type of body recomposition, some fat loss, muscle gain to look a little bit more toned, um, you need to focus on the food first. And when you do focus on the food first, you cannot be doing detrimental things like counting calories, eating very little portions, lowering the fat, upping the carbs because you thought that some random girl on the internet says that you can eat raw till four vegan diet. That was me. I fell for it. And what's going to happen is, look, if you cut out the junk food like the seed oils, Burger King, McDonald's, you're going to initially lose a lot of weight. You're gonna be like, "Wow, whatever I'm doing right now, this is the one, it's working." But that weight that you lose is not gonna stay down. It's gonna come right back because you're not actually eating foods that are satiating you, making your hormones happy, truly helping you recover anything that you have to heal. So, I see so many young women doing these types of diets where they are lowering the fat, and I look at their portions, and they're eating toddler portions, you know, and they're going to the gym, and they complain, "Oh my gosh, I'm so low energy. I'm so tired. I'm so moody. My hair is falling out." These are the sure signs that you're just not eating enough, much less you're not even eating the right types of foods. So it took me losing my period to learn my lesson as a young woman, and I just know that I feel like I was born to be a great mom. Like, I just love kids so much. I love the concept of having a happy, healthy family, having lots of kids, and so when I lost my period, that really was the wake-up call that I needed to be like, "Oh my goodness, whatever I'm doing, I am literally out of my mind because I just lost my period." And, that's when I took a blood panel test. This is when I was vegan. So did the vegan diet cause me to lose my period? Yes, it did. Took my blood panel test and my doctor said, you either have to supplement heavy if you insist on being vegan or just eat some meat." You know, and that really was all it took for me to open up my mind again and start eating meat. So that's when I searched online, fell back into the rabbit hole of, like, looking at success stories, hearing women talk about them quitting the vegan diet, and that's also something I love sharing is if you feel like this carnivore diet or animal-based diet, any diet that you are on is truly changing your life, talking about it online, like the way that you are giving me the opportunity to, you just never know who it can help, and so this is why I do the content that I make and I share every single day about my story, hopefully to reach these women who need it.
Mhm. I'm currently, as I stated, I'm just recently signed up, so I'm going through all the playbacks with Raymond and going through the priming. Again, I've been doing this for about 2.5 months now, so I'm kind of behind. But one thing that I noticed, and what it seems like since you mentioned that these girls or anyone really, if you're calorie counting, which I hate calorie counting. I absolutely hate it. I think it's the worst thing. I don't want
Yeah,
to do it for anyone. I don't want to give you a meal plan where you're sticking to this. But
right.
even for myself, I feel like I was undernourished following a ketogenic routine. I've never really tracked calories, probably for about 7 or so years now. I just eat till I'm satiated. I do scoopfuls of butter like throughout the day. And as I said, I felt like I was undernourished myself. And now I feel like
Mhm.
my body's actually healing.
Wow.
And I've heard this on a video that you mentioned that the body is going to prioritize healing before weight loss. Weight loss
Absolutely.
was not one of my goals, but
Oh, okay.
each and every single day when I wake up,
Yeah.
I can feel different parts of my body just come on board, come online. And working out is so much easier for me now. I feel more connected throughout my body. And before jumping on this, I was out playing basketball with one of my clients. I just had this overwhelming feeling of gratitude. I don't
Yeah.
know if that's something that you witness yourself, but
Every day.
it's just like I am so thankful to finally be healing. I've been dealing with this knee issue for a while now. It went
Wow.
away, came back, but now I'm able to run around. I have a son. I want to be able to play with him until I'm 50. I want to have grandkids. And I want to be able to run around with them too. So prioritizing the body is going to prioritize healing before weight loss. How can that look for some of the people that have been in your group? What have you seen?
I love this topic so much because I experienced it firsthand before being able to see it with other people and able to recognize very clear signs that this is exactly what's happening to other people. So it took me, again, like really damaging my hormones, losing my period, ruining my skin, to finally stop in my tracks and just focus on what I should have focused on for the 15 years beforehand. And that is just eating enough, eating to satiation and feeding my body the fat that it was craving for. Um, and so some things that showed me that my body was finally healing and doing what it was supposed to do was weight gain. So as backwards as it sounds, I gained at least 25 pounds, maybe even 30 pounds, anywhere from 25 to 30 pounds. I gained that much weight within the first few months of going carnivore. And the reason why I didn't freak out and completely give up on this carnivore lifestyle and quit was, again, because women who did it before me were talking about this important weight gain phase. And they were saying that, look, I went through this phase. It's not permanent. It sheds down the line, but the weight gain is simply happening because your body is trying so hard to make it feel safe that it can focus on healing, that the hormones can start to regulate, that the hormones can start to upregulate, and also that the metabolism can start healing as well. So for a lot of women, they feel like they are so overweight and inflamed, yet they are malnourished. So this whole concept of people being extremely overweight, maybe even obese, yet they are actually malnourished. You look at someone and you cannot tell whether or not they're truly nourished or malnourished. And many times these days, if you're diabetic or if you have autoimmune issues, your hormones are out of whack, and you feel like you need to lose weight, chances are you actually need to eat more and focus on nourishing harder before you can get to those healing goals and the weight loss eventually. So I always say, if you're coming to carnivore for healing and weight loss, expect the healing to take priority, as in your body's going to prioritize the healing before it gets to the weight loss and the body recomposition. This is where it trips a lot of new carnivores up because most people will say, yes, I want to heal my PCOS, but I kind of want to lose the 10 pounds first, right? And so when they see the weight creep up or they see the weight stall and not budge, they focus on that and they really stop thinking about the healing. So I always like to focus on the topic of heal before weight loss, carnivore diet, obviously not a quick fix diet. You see it with every single testimonial, mine included. It took me 30 pounds of weight gain before my appetite was finally like, Bella, you can stop eating 5 pounds of beef every day and 2 sticks of butter in a single day. I was eating that much. To this day, people hear my story on podcasts on my channel and they're like, she's lying. She just wants attention, right? I can still eat like 4 pounds of meat in a day. If I am working out so hard in the gym, yes, I can work my appetite back up, but I don't think I can ever film myself eating 5 pounds of meat. I wish I did like a full day of eating, filming myself doing a 5 pound day with 2 sticks of butter. But I if you think I'm making it up, that's fine. But I'm just trying to share that I had to eat that much food and gain that much weight before my period came back and my ravenous hunger started calming down. So 6 months of that. Then my ravenous hunger calmed down, and then it took another 6 months for my 5 meals a day pattern to die down to 3 meals a day. Then it was 2 meals a day, and then I felt on top of the world doing 1 meal a day for a very long period of time, and we can talk about, like, frequency of meals, intermittent fasting, and all of that, but I just wanna focus on the topic of the healing before the weight loss is such a real thing, and I see it way too often now, specifically with women. Makes sense because women tend to do the damage to their bodies for long periods of time, counting calories, overworking in the gym, intermittent fasting way too hard, maybe even biohacking a little bit too much. The stress that you put your body through, it's gonna bite you back, down the line for sure. If it's not through weight gain, it'll be through hair loss, it'll be through wrecked hormones, irregular periods, ravenous hunger.
You gain the 30 pounds then, 5
Yes.
pounds of meat a day, 2 sticks of butter. At that point, and I guess this would be a question too, if this is something that you is there like a time when you say, "Okay, the body's healed, and now you can focus on weight loss," but when you did so, did you then start to track calories or monitor, or did you just let the body decide, "This is what you need, this is you're satiated,
Yes.
stop eating"?
Yeah. I never ended up tracking. Since going carnivore the past 6 years, I've really just dedicated, this new journey of health and wellness to listening to my body, and it's really served me so well because Um, I have gotten the weight loss that I wanted. Weight loss is no longer on my list of goals with, health and longevity and what I wanna achieve. It's just not there because it's so easy and so effortless. I can truly eat as much as I want, whenever I want, stop when I feel full, and I can actually 100% rely on my body signals now. If I were to eat whenever I was hungry and stop when I was full on a standard American diet, on a vegan diet, I would look completely different, I promise you. And I have before and after photos of when I was like well into vegan. And every time I share the before and after, people keep saying, "Are you sure that's you? Like, you really look like a different woman." I feel so too, you know? That's the difference. The inflammation, the carbs just want to hold on to lots of water, so you look very puffy everywhere, especially for me, like, as an Asian, Asians are renowned for holding water weight in their face. So, that's why people, when they see my face before and afters, they're like, "You look like a different person," because I was holding so much water weight or just water and inflammation in my cheeks, eyes were a different shape even, my nose was very stuffy looking. It was incredible to see the change, that happened just visually, but never tracked, never ended up counting calories. I feel completely free from needing to do that.
I think that's the way that it should be.
Thank you for
Simple.
saying I agree. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Simple, easy. I graduated with a bachelor's in, exercise science, and they did teach us the calories in versus calories out model. They went over this study where this guy was eating Twinkies for, like, a month, and he was still able to lose weight, but
Oh,
one thing that And I feel guilty about this because I remember one client that was really overweight and she was coming in. I was like, you need to monitor your calories, you need to track. If you're not losing weight, it's because you're eating too much.
Mhm.
So I don't know if she was being honest about it or not. Can't know
Okay.
in hindsight. But honestly, I was kind of like shaming her in this, and that's going to add more stress to the equation. It's like you want this goal so bad. If you do follow it, you don't see results. Now you're just going to go back to your old behaviors, and you probably are going to give up unless you come across this type of information.
So true.
Luckily for you, you didn't try any of the fake meat. I did try out veganism for maybe a week, but I was so pissy. I was so mad. I had 2 plant-based, I guess they were Beyond Meat burgers at a restaurant, and even after those, I was like, "This is miserable. I hate this. I'm done. I'm eating meat again."
Oh, good for you.
With the healing, what would you attribute it to? So, you're actually
Mhm.
nourishing the body. Would you say that it's more the fats, the proteins, or just period, you're nourishing the body?
Yeah, I would say it was definitely the fats because I was not afraid to eat as much fat as I wanted, and also just the sheer volume of meat. And so you can say that I was also eating plenty of protein, but I feel like I was eating way more than what all of the coaches who claim that they know how to calculate the macros and the amount of grams of protein based on your body weight and goals. They would never have told me that I needed 5 pounds of meat and 2 sticks of butter. So that goes back to I'm so grateful that I just had my body's hunger and satiation signals be my coach. It literally just served me so well to just listen to that. As crazy as it felt to be eating that amount of food every day for so long, it is what caused so much healing and the eventually the fat loss that I really was looking for. But I like to focus on the high fat carnivore concept because it is such a wild concept to so many people, especially the people who are already convinced that a carnivore diet is probably the way to go. Even new carnivores who have already been carnivore for a period of time, they come to me and they see the amount of fat that I am eating. Typically in my content, I try not to come off as, "You should be eating 1 stick of butter just like me." I try to preface as much as possible with, maybe I am an anomaly, but if you can relate to my vegan and yo-yo dieting, struggling with hormones type of story, and you're craving fat, chances are you actually need the fat. So I like to talk about the whole concept of a very high fat carnivore diet. What is a very high fat carnivore diet? I would say anything that requires you to add more fat to already very fatty meats. So think ribeye, think 80-20 ground beef. I would be adding even more fat to those meals. And so that to me is defines a high fat diet in a very just easy to absorb way. Because again, I don't want to talk about numbers, amount, or grams of fat. If you have to add extra fat to already fatty meals, you're a high fat carnivore. That's exactly what you need if you're craving for it. And I do want to bring up a very important voice about high fat carnivore eating, Dr. Elizabeth Bright. I got a lot of help and inspiration and just knowledge from her, as well as confirmation that what I was doing before even meeting her was exactly what I needed to do. So she was just the verification that I needed because she studied this. She helps tens of thousands of clients go on a stick of butter a day approach. And when I heard that, like, oh my gosh, her protocol is literally a stick of butter a day. I was like, she's my person. So she has written 2 books for anyone watching this episode, trying to heal hormones, thyroid, and cortisol. Read her books. One is for all women of all ages. Good Fat is Good for Women. Her newest book is specifically targeting young women and teenagers. So highly recommend.
I picked one up myself. Not that I'm a
Love
female, not that I'm a woman, I don't identify as one, but I wanna
you.
know,
Yes, good for you.
how would you add more fat to the meals then? Would it just be butter alone, or what other sources do you have? What other little snacks?
Yeah. So Main choice was the butter, and I think for me, what was so appealing with butter was I could put it in the fridge as if it were just a little fat bar with the wrapping already there, and I can take it out of the fridge, unwrap it, take the bites that I need, or just pack it to go. If I were to bring it to school, then I would pack it frozen. So I had a stash of frozen butter sticks and then just chilled butter sticks in my fridge. And when I pack it frozen, then I can have that buffer period where I can store it in my locker and it will still be edible and somewhat solid when I did need to eat it. And the reason I like cold butter or frozen, that works too, is it was just so much easier for my body to digest. It didn't cause any loose stools, and I was experiencing months of loose stools, diarrhea, explosive diarrhea, just because I was vegan, right? I was a very low fat, high carb vegan. So to switch from that, 6 years of it, to suddenly eating sticks of butter, obviously the body's going to need to adapt. So cold butter helped with my digestion. Melted butter, melted rendered fat, like the drippings that ooze out of your ground beef when you're cooking it, that type of fat I avoided at all costs. And I learned this the hard way because I was craving so much fat, I would drink that melted fats because it just tasted so good to me. But then, literally minutes after, I would be running to the toilet having the loose stool. But when I ate it cold, it somehow would, like, go into my digestion and digest better. The feeling of eating cold butter versus drinking hot fats also didn't induce that initial, ugh, like, heartburn, nausea, like, this is very nauseating. So, that's something that I love to recommend for anyone who's struggling with nausea and loose stools, new to carnivore. But yeah, butter was my go-to. Raw suet, very, very high quality fat, specifically eating it raw was a fantastic source of healing and easy to digest fat as well. So raw suet.
I've never personally tried that myself yet.
Oh, you have to try
There's
it.
there's a joke within the carnivore community because 'cause I've jumped on all these different Facebook pages and stuff, is never trust a fart. So what you were talking about there seems very similar to my experience for it was only a week,
Yeah.
thankfully.
Good.
Just
Good.
once you started eating the cold butter instead of the hot, it completely resolved that. And what would you attribute that to? Just like a change in your gut microbiome?
Man. So I wouldn't say it was like a magic, overnight quick fix, but eating the cold fat instead of melted and hot something about like so imagine you're eating a chunk of cold butter. It goes through into your stomach, into your digestive system. It's going to take some time for that cold solid butter to melt into a liquid and to be absorbed slowly, right? Meanwhile, if you're drinking hot melted butter, that's just sitting there melted and already like just way too much. It's just too much. And so I think it's the amount of time that it takes that cold fat to become liquid and then to start being absorbed by the body is what gave me the feeling of, wow, like the digestion just feels better. I'm not needing to run to the toilet and feel like I'm nauseous too. And so the nausea feeling is induced for me by hot, liquidy fats. So drinking that up is just, it hits way too fast for me. So that's why I did cold fats only. And another thing that really helped was drinking sparkling water because that sparkling water gives that cutting through the fat feeling. Yeah. It just provides that nice tang or that just a cold hit of cutting through the fat. And so that really helped. But also, if you're really struggling with the loose stools and you're not like James, where it takes only 1 week to adjust, which is incredible. By the way, that's really great. If you're weeks in, months in, still having this issue, actually try to stop drinking so much water when you're eating these fatty meals, these meaty carnivore meals. Try to limit the water intake because that can also dilute things in the digestion. Drink it maybe 30 minutes before you start your meal. Start drinking 30 minutes after. That should help a lot.
Have you ever I'm pretty sure you drink if you do drink raw milk, or I've heard you say that you eat raw cheese at least. I'm curious if part of that with the heated butter has to do with the enzymes being broken down. I have a book called Enzyme Nutrition where it
Mm.
discusses how after a certain point, meat and well, I mean that's how they pasteurize dairy too, is they raise the temperature of it. It kills the enzymes in it, which destroy not only the bad bacteria but the good bacteria too. So I'm curious if, along with just the hot liquidy feeling, if the enzymes being broken down and that has something to do with it as well.
Yeah, so with raw dairy, and I do eat raw cheese, but I eat raw kefir or drink raw kefir a lot more frequently. With raw kefir, I think I choose that over the cheese because I don't typically eat salt. If I were to cook all of my meals, I skip the salt. I've just always been a no salt carnivore, learned it from the Zeroing In on Health carnivore group, which was like the OG carnivore group. And so whenever I eat cheese, I usually have no choice or I'm just craving for something cheesy and I treat myself. But the raw kefir I can have every single day with no inflammation, no issues, no bloat. And the raw kefir is such a great food for me now because it's fermented. So because it's fermented, the carb count is going to be lower. Yes, there's still carbs in there, right? But I'm not carnivore to be zero carb. I'm carnivore for the benefits of eating animal foods exclusively. So I'm not worried about having some carbs, but it's animal carbs. It's fermented, so it digests easier. And the fact that it's raw and unpasteurized, you get all of those amazing enzymes, probiotics, all of that that really aids your digestion and even supports healthy gut health. So yeah.
The no salt is something that I've started implementing too. I saw your video on it and I noticed myself if I do too much salt, I definitely get puffy. So carbohydrates, for those who don't know, they're gonna make you retain water, they're gonna make you retain sodium too. And the courses that I've gone through tell you that if you experience symptoms like the keto flu, this is an electrolyte imbalance because as your insulin comes down, as you're regulating your blood glucose, your blood insulin, you're going to be excreting more water. You're going to be actually losing water weight, but with that, you're going to be excreting sodium as well. So the quick fix to this was to add salt to your water, maybe some lemon, some lime for some potassium as well. But yeah, I've noticed that I don't really gravitate towards salt nearly as much as I did prior to eliminating the last little bit of carbohydrates that I was doing on, keto. So, it's very interesting. I no longer need to supplement. I was
Oh,
doing, like, potassium pills too, and I don't need any supplements anymore. It's amazing, and I feel on top of the world. It's like every day gets better and better and better.
and I think that's amazing, by the way, but I think it's because our bodies are very, very adaptable, very smart. So when you give it enough time to adapt to a carnivore diet, eating nothing but animal foods, it starts being more efficient at absorbing all of the electrolytes and minerals that are literally naturally found in the meat that we're eating. Yes, it definitely helps to eat your meat more rare instead of well done, right? Because when you keep it rare and bloody, you are getting more electrolytes and minerals. If you eat seafood, get those oysters, have it raw, right? If you eat sashimi, amazing. You're getting such great electrolytes and minerals and iodine as well. So that's how I see it. People come to me and they're like, there's no way you're eating no salt. Where are you getting your electrolytes and minerals? I'm literally getting it from the meats that I'm eating.
With pregnancy, you said that you wanted to become a mother one day, like, you love big families and such. There's a book called Metabolic Toxemia, which he discusses that women during pregnancy, they need a ton of protein and they need a ton of salt too. Kind
Oh.
of straying away from that. I don't know why I really brought that one up, but since you mentioned periods earlier, the keto courses that I've been through, they recommend carb cycling. So you go through this process of high fat, moderate protein, low carbohydrates for a few months, and then once you've keto adapted, then you can start carb cycling. And this is supposed to theoretically, I'm not a woman, I don't know, help you out with your periods because of estrogen, progesterone, how it rises. Uh,
Yep.
Another book mentions how in the beginning of your cycle, your menstrual cycle, when estrogen is low and rising, that this would be a time to eliminate the carbohydrates. But a week before you menstruate, that's when you'd want to up your carbohydrates in order to support your menstruation or yeah, your period.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard of
Ever
that.
found this to be true? Or
Well, look, I've heard this whole, theory where there are periods of time throughout the women's monthly cycle where you should be adding back in carbs. And then there's a certain time where keto diet and low carb is going to be fine. But I have been eating a carnivore diet, which is a very low carb diet. And my first few years, I was practically a zero carb diet eater. And yet my periods were the best they've ever been. The most painless, smooth, and pleasant experiences. To have one at all was already a miracle. To have it back, right? Because it disappeared because I was malnourished on a vegan diet. So again, like, you can be malnourished and your hormones can be absolutely wrecked even if you feel like you look very puffy and overweight. It's it's such a hypocritical thing, but it is very possible. In fact, it's quite common, and I'm starting to see it with a lot of people who come in and ask for help. So, with this theory of you need to add in carbs if you're a woman, I have a source of carbs that is carnivore. I have cheese, I have yogurt, I have kefir, and let's say I wanted even more carbs, then sure, I've got raw milk one day. Like, let's say I'm pregnant or I'm approaching my pregnancy and I want to make sure that everything's very smooth. I'm going to be reading a lot of books, the right types of books to prepare for my first pregnancy. But let's say I needed the carbs to either produce a lot of breast milk for the baby, then I will be drinking raw milk, raw goat milk, whatever it takes. But I know that there are options always that are animal based. And I can argue that those animal based options are probably the highest quality foods to eat to prepare for a baby, you know? So I'm not really worried about the carbs because I know that there are still very easy to get carnivore options.
forgive me if this is too personal, I can edit this out.
No
So,
worries.
throughout your first pregnancy, when you do conceive, would you take this same approach? I know it's hard to really answer that now, but you'd still say that you'd go towards the animal-based sources, or do you think you'd start implementing some other plant-based
Mm,
sources?
Well, that's such a good question. I think about it all the time, and I hear about this thing called pregnancy food aversions, where you literally get like sick thinking or eating specific foods, and you are not in control of it. People say your baby's in control of it. Oh, my baby doesn't like, beef anymore. Whatever happens to the hormones in the body during my first pregnancy, whatever happens, like, let's say I crave for pickles, I'll eat it. Like, sure, I don't think I'm gonna crave for Burger King, though. I really don't think so. Like, I don't think our ancestors craved for junk foods. They were craving for natural foods, and I'm sure if they were craving for more acidic type foods, they fermented stuff, right, naturally and figured it out. But for my first pregnancy, if I crave for non-animal foods, I'm gonna eat it, and I'm going to document and share and let everyone know. Like, there's no shame, I feel like. Nowadays, there's a lot of hardcore carnivores who typically, will shame on the internet and say like, "Oh, you're not carnivore if you're eating blah, blah, blah." Literally, who cares if you don't see me as a carnivore anymore because of my pregnancy? I could care less. I'm doing this for health and for a healthy family.
Mhm, mhm. I'm probably gonna need to edit this bit out because we haven't made the announcement yet, but my fiance is pregnant with our second child at the moment, and
Congratulations.
she thank you, thank you. She had both pregnancies, this one and the previous, crazy red meat aversions the first trimester. I couldn't even cook it in the house with the first one. So now she's been doing, like, mainly chicken and such, but definite red meat aversion. I'd be interested to see what happens with you in the future.
So she's currently having a red meat ever wow.
Yeah. Yeah,
So chicken, does she like fish?
she loves fish, she loves sushi. Sushi.
Oh,
So,
nice. It's great. Well,
mhm. Which, little tidbit, one thing I love telling future parents is, I'm not sure if you've come across David Brownstein's work or George Fletch's with the iodine doctors.
yes. Mm.
Iodine makes incredibly smart babies.
Wow, good to know.
Mm.
Yeah, that's awesome.
How do you deal with any type of social situations? Was this a problem when you first became a carnivore with your family? Was it an issue with friends? Or do you ever cheat? Do you ever stray away from this?
Yeah, so I actually have never cheated and ate any meal ever that was not carnivore, and I feel like it's because I fed my body so much fat to the point where I treated my butter sticks as a crutch and as like my weapon against my sugar cravings. So anytime I had a sugar craving, I would be eating the butter until that sugar craving disappeared, no matter how much butter it took. And it actually didn't take too much because pure animal fats is probably the best thing that you can combat sugar cravings with. It just satiates beyond any other food. And it will literally quiet down those sugar cravings because you're satiating your brain and your hormones in your body with such a strong and potent fat that the sugar cravings no longer feel like you don't need sugar anymore. And it's probably because you're being fat adapted too. With time, your body no longer needs the carbs and the sugars for fuel. It finally feels like it can convert to a fat burner instead of a sugar burner. So I'm sure that happened too as I was gorging on the fat. So when I went out to eat, and I did a lot of that my first year of carnivore because I was living in New York, I would go to hot pot restaurants with my friends. That was already our favorite spot to go to, all you can eat hot pot restaurants, and thank goodness hot pot restaurants are, to this day, one of the best carnivore restaurants you can go to because you can eat as much meat as you want. You can literally order 20 plates of beef, and for the hot pot as in the soup that you cook your raw meat in, you can do plain water, and that's what I did. I just did plain boiling water. I do have carnivore friends who have hot pot with me, and they'll do their, bone broth. They have bone broth. Just make sure you, ask if there's sugar or MSG in it, but typically, the higher quality hot pots are very good ingredients in the soups. But I like to do hot water because I don't like salt, so I cook my meat in that hot water, I eat, and I'm having the best time with my friends. Nobody really cares that I'm eating only meat. I found what really works is I have psoriasis, guys. You know, like my eczema problems are getting out of control. I just really want to fix this issue because it's seriously annoying. So I'm going to do like this ketogenic diet. Have you guys heard of it? Typically they have, and then they forget about it, you know? So just say that it's a temporary thing and do it forever. If you end up doing it forever, they won't really notice.
Was it triggering for you at all when you were making this transition to be around the same groups, the same settings at all? Or see the same those foods that you used to eat?
Yeah, no, like I didn't feel triggered at all, and I didn't feel like I wanted to eat the foods that they were eating, like the bowls of rice that they were eating. And actually, it was really from going to a carnivore diet after being vegan for 6 years that I was worried there would be some anxiety, some guilt, because when you become a vegan, you inevitably get washed over by the whole cruelty, thing where like you stop wearing clothes, you stop using products that are animal sourced and animal based. And I did take it quite far. They really do brainwash you into believing that the vegan diet is so much more than a vegan diet. It is a way of life and just everything is affected. So yeah, the switching over to eating meat for the first time in 6 years is a real struggle, and I talk to a lot of vegans, like, online because they come to me and they're like, "How did you do it? How did you get over the guilt and the stress and the anxiety?" And, like, "Didn't you want to vomit just looking at raw meat?" And so It was definitely a mental blockage there, but eating eggs as my first animal food was incredibly helpful because when you crack open the egg, you're not seeing blood. When you cook the egg, there isn't, aromas of raw meat yet. So I had eggs be my first meal with lots of butter, so I was getting the fat and the protein, and then shortly after, I was like, "This just tastes so good. I cannot wait to eat meat again."
I wonder how that just sat in your stomach at first. I imagine you were just like, "Oh, this is what I needed for so long."
It was a magical, magical feeling, yeah.
Mm. My fiance, one of our first dates, I actually broke her steak virginity. She was vegan for a while, so I didn't have any
Wow.
furniture in my apartment or anything like that. I just had a little Instant Pot, and I cooked the entire meal in there. I cooked her a nice juicy ribeye, and that was her first steak for a few years. And she went through the same process too, now that I think about it. She
Yeah,
gained weight. She gained quite a bit of weight, and then now she's like lean without trying at all. Period. And it's just from eating real food. Just
just
from
the
eating
way
real
it
food.
is. Yeah,
No calorie counting, no anything like that.
yeah.
So regarding the vegan propaganda, how the cows are their farts are ruining the planet, the ozone, and all that, and the does the quality of the meat matter to you then? Do you go for grass fed, grass finished, or do you eat the conventional?
Yeah. So, I've had phases to experiment with this because after going carnivore, I, again, like, just tried to listen to my body, and I really became obsessed with experimentation, and so I had all of these little phases of, "Let's try, adding back in the salt," and the salt was the only variable that I was experimenting with in those 2 to 3 weeks, and then I did a whole, "Let's try cutting out all the eggs and just eating meat." I did a whole beef-only phase for a couple months. I loved the way that I felt. I also did a whole grass-fed, grass-finished phase only, and then back to conventional meats. I will say that if you're healing autoimmune issues, mine was psoriasis, so skin related, you may actually benefit a lot from focusing on grass-fed, grass-finished only, focusing on non-aged, low histamine meats even, that could actually make a huge difference for those struggling with histamine intolerance. Autoimmune healing, I typically do recommend focus on the higher quality non-aged. But if you're healing, like for example, you want to reverse diabetes or you just want to bring back the hair, go to town with all of the variety, whatever meats that you can afford. Don't even stress yourself out because the stress that people put on themselves when they first go carnivore to try to be perfect, to try to do lion diet is what will eventually undermine you down the line. And that's very unfortunate to see. So only if you're autoimmune would be the exception.
Okay, that's good. And I mean, it's not very budget friendly to always go for those options.
It's not ideal. Yeah.
Yeah. One of the reasons why I jumped on a ketogenic diet years and years ago was because I was going through some mental health crisis. I was having anxiety attacks each day. I was having insomnia. And then I came across a book by Dave Asprey, The Bulletproof Diet. And the moment that I started eating or doing butter in my coffee and MCT oil in my coffee and adding all these healthier fats, removing the seed oils, my brain turned on immediately. And that was exactly what I needed to feel to keep pursuing this. And now I'm here.
Yeah.
You're a pianist.
Yes.
I'm a health coach, and one of the things is my mental focus is like laser, like being on a ketogenic diet. If I kind of stray off of it for whatever reason, I notice that I get brain fog immediately. So it's almost like an addiction. How do you
Mhm.
feel like being carnivore has affected your performance as a pianist?
Wow, yeah, I feel like absolutely if you are trying to get more mental clarity and also creative flow, right? So where you feel like your creativity can just be translated into the craft that you are trying to translate it through. And for me, it was the piano. So through my fingertips, I had to take all of these ideas and these photos that I was seeing because I like to play music and imagine a scene, right? Or a color or a setting. And so to have that directly translate into the fingertips, it's a very, very complicated process because if you have brain fog, then you might be forgetting notes that you should have memorized, for the past weeks that you were studying and practicing in the practice room for. But if you have brain fog, you already are blocked by the first technical aspect. The technique of playing piano, sure, one of the most difficult instruments, but, I studied my whole entire life studying this instrument that the technique was there. But what really caught me off guard was the brain fog and the memory slips. Like, I literally felt like my memory was failing me. And so that was a very scary feeling being a pianist, because you are expected to be on stage and you're memorizing 60 minutes worth of music with nothing but yourself and your memory and your brain. Other instruments, they get to cheat, they get to have their music in front of them and perform like that, which is so not fair. But as the pianist, if you are having memory slips on stage, it's just so embarrassing, like, I felt embarrassed, and I couldn't believe it because I never struggled with memory slips before, so that was one of the first things that I started feeling like my diet was failing me. Again, I was a vegan when I was having those memory slips, and so I went to carnivore, memory slips stopped. So that's a huge sign that the food absolutely fuels your brain function, your brain efficiency, ability to memorize. And it's a scary thing because if I continue to keep going with the vegan diet, I feel like I could have started developing early onset dementia or Alzheimer's. You just never know. And they call that type 4 diabetes now?
Type 3 diabetes.
Type 3, yeah, there's only 2 right now. Okay, type 3, and, yeah, I feel like that could have very much happened eating the amount of, um, empty calories, the fat, all of that. So, yeah, I feel a very big difference in my mental function.
Mm. You say empty calories, and we're told, like, fiber is so necessary. I like that you put it that way because that's almost what it feels like. What made it easy for me to ditch vegetables was the fact that it's not that I didn't like them. I used them as a vehicle for butter while I was
Yeah,
keto, but I never felt like they gave me any type of oomph or any type of energy. But meanwhile, if I eat a ribeye, I'm not
yeah,
bloated. I feel actually more energized. I wanna go out, I wanna go lift something and slam it. I don't know.
yeah,
But vegetables, it never really provided me anything. If anything, it made me go to the bathroom much, much more frequently, which
exactly.
now, since we were talking about earlier, I have noticed that I don't need to poop nearly as much, and I
Yeah.
consider that a good thing. I have less waste.
Absolutely, less waste because everything that we're eating is digested and absorbed and created into either energy so that we want to go to the gym and go on nice walks, or that it is being used to repair things like healing the hormones, all of that. And I love that you talked about poop because I poop once a week now. That's like 7 to 10 because I used to poop 2 times a day. That is so much less than being vegan, eating only fiber, eating only vegetables, plants, and fruits, and yet my bloat is gone, right? And I was Buddha belly 24/7 as a vegan. Even waking up, I was bloated. After eating, even more bloated. So that also is another sign just based on my own experience and doing this diet and being observant. And so I always recommend people to document, start journaling, taking those progress photos, stop stepping on the scale and letting that number dictate everything. Take the progress photos and take notes because once you start training yourself to observe, look at specific symptoms and markers every single day, you will be able to be more in tune with your body. So it works. It really does. And with the zero bloat and the 1 time a week pooping, I know for sure that my body is as efficient as it can be.
Mhm. I believe that's the best way to actually make this a lifestyle change rather than something that's just superficial if you're going for the weight loss. Because if you still have the seed oils, you're calorie counting, and you pretty much you're just throwing the whole kitchen sink at the body. Meanwhile, the carnivore diet acts as an elimination diet. So if you do go to introduce foods in the future, it's going to be so apparent that there's no questioning what caused that issue in the first place. So like what have you seen from your members that they've been able to get rid of besides just diabetes?
Yeah. Well, my favorite one is infertility being reversed. So we have seen so many of our members. We have a lot of couples coming in together as like a team, wanting to heal and just feel better. We've had young couples come in because they want to get pregnant together and they get pregnant during their time with us. And that's just exciting to watch and see these families blossom and these couples just be so happy and healthy together. And then we see type 2 diabetes being reversed off the metformin, off the blood pressure medications, off the anxiety and depression medications. So the mental health aspect of healing and getting to see that is extremely profound to and we've also had stories of people literally, who have schizophrenia, and they're able to be more self-aware, which is crazy. It's so crazy. And then we have lots of people who heal hormones. Obviously, we get a lot of women. Most of our members are women. They heal their hormones. They finally get the fat loss that they want and the body composition. They just feel so confident in their skin for the first time in their lives for a lot of these women, okay? Because we fall into the trap of eating a high inflammatory diet since we are babies and kids. And so we never truly reach our full potential or we never truly feel confident about ourselves. And to see these women and men um, feel that feeling for the first time where it's like, wow, I feel like, my body is finally serving me. It's just so rewarding to see. And I think one of the coolest things to see is we have almost every day now Zoom calls. So we do get to see people's faces and like upper half. And when you go to these Zoom calls with regular members who do go regularly, you get to see them going from very inflamed, tired. Some of them are lying down. They're so sick. And then months later, they're sitting up in the Zoom calls. Their face is chiseled and their skin is vibrant and glowy. They're a different person, and you get to see this beautiful metamorphosis in front of your eyes. Um, but yeah, every ailment you can even think of, I can bet you just do a quick search in the Steak and Butter Gang, you will find people who have improved it.
It almost sounds too good to be true, but it's not.
I know,
It's not.
right? Yeah.
It's hap
Yeah.
I think you nailed it when you said just, like, confidence and finally feeling like your body's serving you because that's why I was overcome by gratitude earlier today. It's like things just keep getting better and better and better. I'm like, granted, I was healthy before. I felt like I was healthy before, but now it's like everything is just effortless, and I'm pretty, like, locked in, but now I find that I don't even wanna multitask. I wanna stay locked into just one activity at a time and just put all my intent and focus on one thing, and this is just in, like, 2.5 months. Skin's
Wow.
great, energy's great. I woke
Yeah.
up at 2:45
Mm.
the previous day, but I was ready to go for the day. I feel like I don't even need to sleep as much anymore. That's how efficient my body feels. I wasn't tired, I had energy throughout the day, no coffee. Like,
Yeah.
this is truly amazing stuff. And
Yes.
one thing that I really love since I entered into the community is seeing how many older people that are in there. Like, people are saying that I'm 71, I'm 67. This never even crossed my mind that they would be trying to make these changes at this time in their life. But meanwhile, that's probably who needs it most with osteoporosis, osteopenia.
Yep.
These are the people that really, really need it.
Absolutely. And wow, that's such a great observation is that these people who come into the community, a lot of them are definitely 50 plus. And it just goes to show that it's never too late to reverse and improve your health, reverse any conditions that you're struggling with. And a part of me really wants to keep working hard to push content out about this carnivore lifestyle to get more awareness because I actually want to see more younger people, like so to see you as part of the gang and also sharing so openly having your podcast is just so wonderful and exciting to see because we the younger voices are going to be the people who really shape the future, right? Who continue to push out awareness that there is this amazing lifestyle that you can lean on and reverse all of your issues and reach your full potential. So that's one of my main goals is to see more younger people be interested in this lifestyle.
Have you seen teenagers join?
So we've had teenagers join for sure, and they're usually in there with their mom. So the mom initially found us, signed up, and then had their kids come in. But it's, man, it's like, it's quite rare to see a 25 to 30 or 20 to 30, come into the gang and genuinely want to eat a carnivore diet and heal or lose weight, right? Because they're somewhere else on the internet. They're in a completely different niche. They're watching other stuff. And maybe they're just not unhealthy enough yet to start searching.
Yeah. Yeah, usually from my experience, people have to hit a wall in order for them to
Yeah,
actually wake up.
right.
It's unfortunate.
Mm.
So would there be anyone that you think carnivore wouldn't be good for?
Hmm. I think carnivore just wouldn't be good for anyone who isn't genuinely searching for answers. So very much related to what we were just saying, like they haven't hit a wall yet. They haven't become desperate enough yet to truly be serious about changing their diet, because changing a diet is one of the most difficult things to do. This is a whole lifestyle change. People would rather do that 7-day juice cleanse to hopefully get to their goal, right? Than completely switch up their diet. And a lot of people have been eating a standard American diet, cakes, bread every single day for decades. So to completely cut that out and only eat animal foods can be such a drastic change that those who are just not serious or desperate enough for it, they'll never make it past 30 days, much less 90 days. So I would say it's not right for those types of people who kind of just hope that it's a quick fix diet. It's not. But if you're desperate enough and you keep an open mind and you are patient, some people it will take 90 days or more to really feel and see the effect of this lifestyle. If you're patient, if you're desperate, I feel like it could be good for anybody with those traits.
Patience and persistence, because I've heard you mention before that things can get worse before they can get better, especially with things like oxalate dumping, crystals coming out of people's eyes, their skin, cloudy urine and such. Yeah.
Ah,
So
be tough. Yeah.
so Bella, I am extremely grateful that we were able to jump on this call,
Same.
and I am in love with the community. It's really, really inspirational for me as a coach, especially because I want to jump into online coaching and setting up a community of my own. So, where can people listen to your YouTube videos? Where can they find you on social media? And how could they sign up for the SBG gang?
Yeah. So SVG Gang, if you're looking for help and you want a whole team to really hold your hand through it so you don't have to be in the dark, I would highly recommend working with the team in SVG Gang. So it's SVG Gang stands for Steak and Butter Gang. And you can just go to sbgmeetup.com, and meat is spelled like fatty meat. So I'll also make sure to give a link to James so it's clickable. And my YouTube, my Instagram, Facebook, it's all the same, spelled out steak and butter gal, GAL. And you can check me out on all of the platforms.
Love it. Again, thank you so much for your time, Bella.
Thank you so much, James. And like the fact that you took the time to reach out and schedule this podcast and also that you joined the Steak and Butter Gang, like it seriously just warms my heart to know all of this. So it's really nice to meet you and speak to you.